Live from the Lewis Meineke Car Care Center studio, it's the 5 times over caffeinated radio show with Bob Steele on WGMD.
Yep, there you go. 92.7 WGMD. It's Out and About Wednesday. We're live on location from Southern States in Milford, located just off Route 113 at Williamsville Road, the only place in town where you can get a free lunch. Free lunch, of course, today from Legends Pizza and Grill. On the phone with us is RJValentine, concussion expert and inventor of a safer wall system for racetracks. But before we go to RJ, Keith Pettit is here from Southern States in Milford. And Keith, it is looking at springtime. We're kind of, even though we're still in the winter, we're looking down the line there just a little bit, and it's time to start thinking about planting and fertilizing, getting things pulled together, huh?
It absolutely is. Matter of fact, we've gotten all of our fertilizer in for the spring, so we've had people in asking about that. Still a little early to plant yet, but that's coming up on us pretty quickly.
March,
so
isn't it?
Get prepared,
Sure.
Your lawns are going to start taking off here, especially when we're getting 60 and 70-degree weather. Exmark has just come out with all their new spring sales, $500 rebates on lasers, $300 rebates on quests. So we've got everything from zero-turn mowers quality. This is important.
Oh, yeah,
part.
the Exmarks are great stuff.
Top quality
product,
zero-turn mower starting at $29.99 and going up from there. Our new Exmark Radius series, which is an intermediate, it's a small frame commercial machine. We've got 3 different classes of those, and that they took off last year like wildfire. I mean, they have just been a phenomenal performer. All the quality of a commercial machine built into a smaller package. We're fully stocked on those, and just great financing, 0% financing for up to 42 months on those, and just stop by and see us.
Absolutely.
Get ready for spring. Don't drag that old beater out of the garage anymore. Put it out and
put it to pasture.
Put it to pasture. Give it to the junk man, whatever. But stop by and take a look. We've got a lot of great things, and you can see all those models on our new website.
Yes, which is?
MilfordSouthernStates.com.
MilfordSouthernStates.com.
Yeah.
Keith, thanks so much, my friend.
Hey, thank you.
We'll talk to you in about a half.
All right.
92.7 WGMD. RJ Valentine is on the air with us. RJ, thank you so much for spending some time today.
Happy to do so. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you as well, sir. Now, we have looked at and talked on this show about concussions and how devastating they are, how simple and it is to prevent them, and question why more isn't done in the major sports and racing. But you have taken that to the nth degree. Looking at a letter that you wrote, or kind of an editorial that you wrote, and it starts out, in mid-2016, I wrote an article explaining why I'm so driven to make racetracks safer. For 11 paragraphs, I stood on my soapbox expounding the many reasons why antiquated track barricades represent an unnecessary and extreme danger to drivers. I vainly hoped this, along with our many other efforts to further the cause, would help inspire changes. Yet here I am again over a year ago, and not only has progress been minimal, but at least 16 more drivers have died as a result of concrete walls, Armco guardrails, and other antiquated barrier methods. The interesting thing about this is I drive Sports Car Club of America competition nationally, and there are in our area an awful lot of small racetracks that are the roundy round dirt tracks. There's some drag races and there's some road course tracks around here as well. But the real problem is not so much the cars, because we've made cars safer, not so much the driver's safety gear, because with the Hans device and Hutchins and all of those are safer, but the racetracks. We're still driving essentially against a brick wall at 100+ miles an hour, aren't we?
That's absolutely right. Concrete has been the gold standard. When I say the gold, I shouldn't use the gold standard. It's been the thing that everybody uses because it's cheap, easy to acquire, and just put up. And then the cold blind reality of it, it's like if you're going on a highway at 60 miles an hour, okay, you're protected from hitting an abutment. Abutment's made of concrete. You hit an abutment, you know the end result. It's not good. Okay, it's either terminal or huge, massive injuries. Same thing happens on a racetrack. If you've got a racetrack and it's rung with either Armco barriers or concrete, then you know what the end result's going to be. You don't even have to guess. You're going to know what it is. So what we've tried to do is insulate away from concrete. You're not going to completely eliminate concrete, but before you get
it's structural, yeah, certainly. Mm-hmm.
So what you got to do is, we're not advocating getting rid of all the concrete. We want to build a buffer between the concrete so that you have a softer landing. The softer wall, the safer wall, was developed with that in mind for ovals. Now you've got road courses that have have a significant amount of AMCO or concrete. Some people say, "What, are you going to change the whole track?" No, absolutely not. There's no way you're going to be able to do that economically for the track owners. But what the track owners have to realize is at some point in the very, very bad areas of a track, then you got to have a softer landing. You know what? We can't avoid the question any longer. It's just like football. Everybody say, well, it's concussions part of the game, and you're going to play the game, you're going to get concussions. The whole thing in motorsport is we're at that terminal point where we have to say to the general racing public and the owners that we have to get more proactive. And that's what we're doing with our barriers and any other barriers that create a cushion. We're not the only ones out there. We know that. But what we really want to do is if you go into our website and you look at thermal, they're probably the gold standard of how to develop. They took their track, they put AMCO in, but what they've consequently done after they did that, they called us up and said, "Look, we understand what you're trying to do. Give us an opportunity to give us a proposal on how we can ring our track." Now, they've done that. If you go in there, you'll see we move 15 feet away from the AMCO, and when the car or the vehicle hits, it moves. You want it to move. It's almost like what's the best way to if you're you're on a trampoline and you jump onto a hard surface, what's going to happen? Where
it's going to go splat.
Gives,
yeah, mm-hmm. Sure.
It gives, and you want it to give for obvious reasons.
Well, it dissipates the energy of the speed.
Yeah. Oh, look. We call it gradual fast cushion, soft cushion.
Okay.
And it works. I mean, at thermal, they've had accidents at the end of a long straightaway where the cars have gone off and hit the AMCO, and they get dented. The barriers move, depending on how fast they go, and they can move, 4, 5, 6 feet. But they're cushioning the blow in a chain reaction of basically energy absorption.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to do.
What is that website so we can direct our listeners to it so they can see exactly what we're talking about?
It's impactsafetybarriers.com. And
impactsafetybarriers.com.
And when you go in there, there's tremendous amounts of information. We have a comparison chart of all the different kinds of barriers. We're in the barrier business, but we're not the only ones. There's other people out there, and due to economics in Europe, when shipping to Europe is a difficult. It costs as much to ship as the barriers cost. So some people say, well, can you get it? We've shipped them to Europe because they want our barrier. We shipped them to Australia, to China, and people buy them. But if I have a competitor that's doing something similar, I'll say, hey, go see our competitor. Okay, it's going to be cheaper for you.
Well, and that's that's one of the things where it seems to be universal with people that are involved in safety in racing and safety in general. They want the word out. They want those. In your case, you want the barriers on the tracks, but in the case of the Hans devices, the Hutchins devices, and stuff like that, they want that technology out there to protect the driver and protect the enthusiast.
Yeah, let me tell you a quick story. People say, how did you get into this business? And I was at St. Petersburg in 1986 when we were racing the Trans Am Series. Paul Newman, Jimmy Fitzgerald. And Jim came around a right-hand turn and slapped the wall and was instantly killed. Okay? He had concrete. And I said, my God, why the hell are they doing this? And that always was embedded in the back of my mind that there's got to be a better way to do this. When Jim Downing came along with the Hans device, everybody said, this guy's nuts. He's going to put a horse collar on us? And
no, I bought one immediately.
We were all resistant to it until he scientifically said to us, here's what we're doing. I said, you know what? this makes sense. They're trying to snap your neck going forward. Make a long story short, it's the gold standard of every. You're not going to get into it. Nobody wants to get in a car today without a Hans device. I mean, it's just pure and simple the best alternative to basal skull fracture. You know, the prevention of basal fracture. So the long and short of it is what we're doing is we've developed the car to the nth degree, and there's still more to come. There's helmets, there's interiors, there's carbon fiber, but the end result is what are you hitting? What are you going to hit? There's no matter what you do inside the car, you cannot hit something that's not going to move. Your brain is going to get rattled around.
Not and have a good end result. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, we've seen this, time and time again in NASCAR. You know, a lot of people watch just to see the wrecks, but what you don't see are those 3 or 4 cars that are slamming down into the infield wall. You don't see the cars. You do see the cars that are hitting the driver's right walls, the upside of the track walls, and the damage that those get, and then the subsequent damage that is caused by the impact of other cars into them. But those other cars that you're not really looking at, you know, they're hitting those inside walls just as hard as the guys that are hitting the outside walls, and those are the guys that seem to be getting hurt a lot.
Well, you know what happened to I believe it was Kyle or Kurt Busch. They hit the inside wall at Daytona a couple of years ago. He was out of racing for I think 16 or 18 races. I mean, he really, damaged his lower torso terribly. Okay, then they quickly went in and they put the safer wall in there. Now, I think NASCAR is doing one hell of a job, to tell you the truth. Okay, they really are trying very, very hard to mitigate crashes.
They've got TV, and so they have to do that. It's the little tracks, the smaller roundy round rings, and the local tracks that are really the ones that are where most of those drivers are dying.
Yeah. Well, those small tracks, they tried a lot of different things. They're still concrete. They started using foam. When I say styrofoam, okay, that worked fairly well. But you know what? It made a huge mess, and they fell apart. And that came, and that's come and gone. So now the next thing is, how do you take a situation like ours that's filled with water, has got a chain reaction, and it's got enough absorption so that if a car hits it, it's going to absorb. And that's what we've been doing with this deal.
RJ, I want to get a little bit more of a description on your device, your invention, coming up right after this commercial break. We're talking with RJValentine, a concussion expert, inventor of a safer wall system. Check them out. ImpactSafetyBarriers.com. That's ImpactSafetyBarriers.com. And we'll be back in just a second. We're live on location from Southern States Milford.
Live from the Lewis Meineke Car Care Center studio, it's the 5 times over caffeinated radio show with Bob Steele on WGMD.
I hit my head in different places.
92.7 WGMD. Brian Eastburn bringing us back in with another great song. It's out about Wednesday. We're live on location from Southern States Milford, located just off Route 113 and Williamsville Road, the only place in town where you can't get a free lunch. A recent article in the Daytona Beach News Journal reports on NASCAR and concussions. It says concussions have recently become a major issue in professional sports across the board, but they've been a health issue racers have faced for decades. The potential for head injuries that can debilitate for life. News Journal reporters chronicle how head injuries and concussions have impacted both NASCAR races as well as drivers competing at lower levels of racing on area tracks. They also looked at how concussions and their prevention have become an increasing part of NASCAR's safety efforts. On the phone with us, RJValentine, a concussion expert and inventor of a safer wall system for racetracks, particularly the small tracks like we have in this area, Georgetown, Del Mar, and others. And we're talking about the Impact Safety Barrier System, which is you can check out on ImpactSafetyBarriers.com. RJ, again, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I am personally a very safety-conscious race driver. I do everything I possibly can, including a little bit larger diameter tubing in my roll bars, heavier-duty seatbelts, anything I can do to make myself safe. But what we're looking at is racetracks. are still using the same antiquated technology that they've used for years. Jersey walls, Armco, tires. These things are somewhat effective, but when you hit a cement wall at 100 plus miles an hour, it's going to do some damage. Tell us a little bit about the impact safety barriers and what's different between your system and some of the others that are out there.
Okay, when you look at the impact system, what we did is we determined that we needed to have enough what I call crush space. So you've got about 24 inches of crush space, which means that when you hit it, it absorbs. It actually collapses in a sense. The plastic in the situation moves. Now, two things happen with our barriers. The first one is the design of the barrier. We put about 225 to 300 pounds of water on the lower end of it. It's about 5 inches out of 48 inches, which is about equivalent to 300 pounds. So now what happens when the vehicle hits, it comes in contact with the barrier. We specify that the barrier should be away from either Armco or concrete where you can do it. Now, some places put 10 or 15 feet. That's for extremely high speeds. Or they get down to 5 feet. So when the car comes in contact with the barrier moves. Now, the whole idea is not to get to the Armco. However, if it does get to the Armco, it's going to be getting there with retarded, impact. So now all of a sudden the shock going through the body and through the car is mitigated in a huge way. And we've done finite element tests. We've seen this stuff happen where cars have hit the barriers and they get dented, but they drive away. And that's what you want. You want somebody to drive away or have limited damage to their body and hopefully their car. But that's how it works. That's how it works. And
well, that's pretty basic. It's very similar to those big yellow barrels that we see on the construction sites and on the highways. A little bit different in design, but basically same principle, right?
You got it. You hit it right on the head. But it's two roadblocks to track acceptance of new barriers. Okay, it's resistance to change, and sometimes they think lack of funds. But what we've determined, that our barriers can be as cost effective as concrete. Concrete weighs, just figure this out, one concrete Jersey barrier weighs 4,500 pounds. Now, most race cars weigh below 3,000 with the exception of a Grand National stock car. They're in the 22 to 2,400 pound range. So
even the open wheelers are, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What you lose if you hit something at 40, let's say 50, 60, 80, 100 miles an hour, you hit something that weighs 4,500 pounds, and your vehicle weighs 2,500 pounds, 2,300 pounds. Who comes out on top? The barrier, the concrete barrier does. It wins every time. However, if before you get to that, you have this, what I call crush space. You've got, 3 to 5 to as much as 15 feet before it even gets to the, let's call it the hot end. The hot end is concrete. We don't want to get there. But if we get there, but you're going slower when you get there, you have less damage.
Certainly. Now, are these reusable barriers, RJ?
Oh yeah.
In other words, can you refill them and reuse them, or is it a significant turnover in a race? Is when the downtime when somebody's hit something like that, can you quickly fix it and put it back in operation?
You hit it. What we do is we have a pin and plug system where what we can do is, let's say we have a damaged barrier. Okay, if you're doing very, very high speed, let me just say this to you: every time you hit them, for the most part, they move. Okay, they move, and if they do break open, then you could pull the pins in within, I'd say, 30 seconds. Pull the barrier out, another 30 seconds, pull it out. Now, time is money. At a racetrack, if you do not, if you do not get to the problem solved, that meaning that the Armco's got to be reconstructed. That's a 2-3 hour deal. Okay, our deal
or redo tire wall, which is probably a half hour. More.
There's more. They scatter. And tire walls are very heavy, believe it or not. People think, well, it's a tire. Tires were made for cars, not for tire walls.
All right, sir. So as we're on the downhill side of this thing, impactsafetybarriers.com is the way to go. And RJ, with the last name of Valentine's Day on Valentine's, or a last name of Valentine on Valentine's Day, what a perfect guest to have today, huh?
Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you giving us an audience to speak to.
Well, we certainly appreciate it with the number of short tracks that we have in this area: go-kart tracks, dirt tracks, asphalt tracks. It's this is a situation that our listeners face, and many of our listeners are enthusiasts, gearheads, and sports racing fans. This is a topic that's very, very dear to our hearts, and certainly me as a driver, very dear to my heart as well. I'd rather not be crashing into hard surfaces as I have in the past.
Absolutely not. So,
all right, my friend.
Again, thank you for your time, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. RJValentine, concussion expert, inventor of safer wall system. Check it out, impactsafetybarriers.com. And if you happen to be a track owner or a track promoter that's listening to the show today and you want more information, just get in touch with me at the radio station. It's Bob Steele, 302-945-2050. That's 302-945-2050. And I'll put you in touch with RJ. He can hook you up, or you can just go to his website. Once again, and this is very simple, impactsafetybarriers.com. 92.7 WGMD is the talk of Delmarva. I'm Bob Steele.